talk about signs, spirits, and superstitions in Jewish belief. Very interesting topic. It's, in it's interesting that with all the science in today's world, and as rational and scientific people are becoming, the interest in superstition and astrology and things of those sorts are actually on the rise in the United States. And we're actually going to show a few polls here. Among US adults, there is a tremendous amount of people that are still believe in all these paranormal types of things. Psychics is a big one, reincarnation, astrology. 62% of US adults. The source for this poll, I don't know, but it's from, no, it's the Paul Research Center. That's a pretty reputable research center. And among British adults, 36% believe in ghosts, 47% believe in destiny, life on other planets, astrology. Canadian adults, again, 32% believe in ghosts and spirits, 32% believe in astrology. So even as we live in this world where science and rationalism is chief and the way it should be, there is still a very high degree of people that believe in the supernatural. So, of course, Judaism has a perspective on everything. And the goal of this short course, developed by the wonderful Jewish Learning Institute in New York, and I'm so grateful to share it here with you and experience this and learn this together with everyone here, is to bring the Jewish perspective to all things of those sorts based on the Bible, the Talmud, the Kabbalah, and all the other Jewish thought leaders and rabbis throughout the generations, collect it all together and see what is the Jewish perspective on all this. There'll be a number of different opinions, like every Jewish class. There'll be a number of different perspectives and thoughts and different ways of looking at it. And we will do our best to try to find, what's interesting is this will also, it's not just an academic class. A lot of the subjects we'll be talking about also touch on some fundamental aspects of Jewish thought. We're going to talk about free choice, about reward and punishment, about destiny, about faith. All these things are not just relevant for the greater academic and just interesting stuff, but also as Jewish theological life. So that's going to be the goal of today's course. And today's lesson will be about dreams. And to begin that, we're going to start by watching this short video. And following the video, we're going to ask some questions. Everyone ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
"900 feet long, 175 feet from keel to funnel, bearing over 2,000 souls, including several of the world's wealthiest. Experts had crowned it the unsinkable, and it was making good time on its maiden voyage. One Jewish man, though, battled a feeling of unease. Isaac Frauenthal was born in Pennsylvania in October 1868, on the Jewish festival of Hoshana Rabbah, meaning Great Salvation. He opened a law practice in New York, and in March 1912, he traveled to Nice, France, to attend his brother Henry's wedding to Clara Rogers. The newlyweds journeyed on to the English port city of Southampton to ride the luxurious Titanic back to New York. And why not? A new life, a new ship, a liner predicted to live happily ever after. Isaac chose a scenic route through France, boarding the Titanic at Cherbourg the day after Passover. He paid today's equivalent of $4,000 for a first-class ticket. But he was jittery. Days earlier, he had an awful dream. He saw himself aboard a colossal steamship that crashed headlong into something large and began to sink beneath the waves. He awoke shaken, but dismissed the dream because he believed neither in dreams nor the supernatural. The night before boarding, his dream reoccurred. An oceanic collision, helplessly sinking. Escape, escape. But the sun rose, and so did he. A lot less certain than before. Was there anything to this? Should he board the Titanic? Should he share his dream? No, they would mock him. The ship was unsinkable. Isaac quietly boarded the Titan of the sea, but he later found a moment to share his fearful vision. As expected, he was roundly ridiculed. Until 4 nights later, when, at 11:40 on April 14th, the ship's lookout spotted a colossal iceberg dead ahead. The Titanic reversed its mighty engines and lurched to the left, but its starboard was lacerated. Ice tore into steel, and water dragged the ship's throat downwards. Isaac heard the captain express terror and ran to rouse Henry and Clara. Too many passengers refused to abandon ship at midnight, unable to believe that a lifeboat was safer than an Olympic liner. But Isaac had seen this vessel sink twice already. As he rolled into a lifeboat, he said, "Well, Henry, I wasn't so foolish, was I?" Henry wasn't sure. Surely such an engineering wonder could remain afloat until it could be repaired or towed. But the Titanic's stern rose into the air with hundreds clinging on. Snapping clean in two, the vessel plunged into the eternal silence of a bottomless ocean. 1,500 souls were lost. A nightmare, a reality, in the heart of the night. One sunrise and 6 hours later, Isaac was hoisted aboard the Carpathia, which sailed on to New York. He no longer doubted that something had forewarned him about the disaster. Isaac Frauenthal dismissed his disturbing dreams and sailed aboard the Titanic. If you had been in his position, would you have done the same?
All right. Okay. So here's the question. That was a spooky video, and it serves as a great segue into the discussion of today, which is, what would you have done had you had that dream about the Titanic? Who wants to share?
I wouldn't have
Go ahead.
gone. I wouldn't have gone on. I might have discounted the first time. I wouldn't have discounted the second time.
Really?
Yeah, I'm with Marjorie. I've had bad feelings, or don't, stay away, don't go any further, kind of, whether it's, in a relationship or in even in a physical type, emanation of, don't travel today or whatever. And yeah, no, I listen to that.
Okay. So that brings us to our first exercise today. Had you ever had a dream that seemed very real to you? And if yes, how did you respond to it? This is on page 5 in your textbook. And the next question would be, what criteria do you use to determine whether you take a dream seriously? These are, the answer could be, I don't take dreams seriously at all. And I know, Tina, you mentioned like feelings. Today we're talking the discussion will be primarily about dreams. So we're going to focus on dreams. I'm going to answer this question for myself. I don't think I ever had a dream. I had dreams that seemed very real, but I personally never took them seriously because they've never been about, I can't say I ever had a dream about a real life event. I had a dream that I won the lottery, but then I woke up and I didn't buy a lottery ticket. But that's just has been my experience. Has anyone else had a different experience? Well,
yeah, I guess I can say some things about just dreams in general. I mean, sometimes we have recurring dreams, sometimes which are interesting, or recurring locations, and sometimes the same people are there or whatever. So I do visit that a bit. But I had a dream a while back and I can never forget it. Gosh, maybe 20 years ago. And I dreamt that I had died. And I dreamt I was in like a heaven or like a holding place, but it was very green and like a beautiful forest picnic area, kind of. Not, it didn't have furniture or anything. And my sister was standing by a tree and she said, "You have to go further." And this person came along and we went further. And now I'm kind of seeing that dream come to a reality. And I can share more about that later. And it involves my sister.
Wow. Okay, so you've had a very real and meaningful dream.
Yeah.
Without getting into the details. Okay. Now, that's really the subject of today. Do dreams have meaning? Right? I'm sure you'll find some people, and maybe some people here feel this but don't want to express it, that say, no, dreams have no meaning at all. And then you'll have people that say every dream has meaning. Then you have people that make a business interpreting dreams. And what we want to discover today is the Jewish perspective. So that's going to be the focus of today's class. And as everything in Judaism, the starting point will be the Bible. We'll start from the beginning. So we want to know, do dreams have meaning? The first place we'll look is in the Bible. So now on your page 6, you sort of see that several dreams are featured in the Bible. We have Jacob's dreams of the ladder. We have Pharaoh's dreams. We have Joseph's dreams. Just in the book of Genesis, there are several dreams featured in the Bible. And we'll focus on, we're not going to go through all those dreams on page 6. This is something you could go through later. But it's just an example of all the dreams referenced in the Bible. And the most famous one, I believe, or at least the one that gets given in the most detail, is the dream of Pharaoh. Pharaoh, in the book of Genesis, he dreamed of the 7 healthy cows, followed by the 7 skinny cows, which he didn't know how to interpret. And he then dreamed about 7 full ears of grain being swallowed by 7 thin ears of grain. And the Bible recounts how he asked he had a whole team of dream interpreters on staff. That was, the Egyptian magicians and wizards. And none of them were able to interpret a dream till Joseph came he was in Egypt because his brother sold him there. Joseph interpreted a dream for him, how the 7 years of famine followed by 7 years of plenty. That's the famous story from the Bible. You have the picture on your screen of the cows and the ears. Famous biblical scene. What do we take from, and by the way, Joseph himself had many interesting dreams. He had a dream. Is anyone familiar with Joseph's dreams?
Yeah, he dreamt about the sheaths and about the sun and the moon.
Exactly. Very good, Tina. Joseph dreamed about how 11 sheaves of wheat were bowing to him, and how the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing to him. And the symbolism of those dreams were that he dreamt this while he was still in Israel, and he shared those dreams with his brothers. And the symbolism was that there'll come a time where he will be the ruler over all his brothers. He will rule over all the tribes. And obviously, his brothers were very disturbed by that, and that was one of the contributors that they eventually sold him into slavery. So Joseph had dreams, and Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dreams. And the Talmud in text number 2 tells us a very interesting lesson we could learn from Joseph's dreams. So
Can you put that up on the screen, because I'm having a hard time sharing this. Let me see if I can bring this down and the text at the same time. Sorry.
No problem. I don't know if I have it on the screen.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll figure it out.
All right. So did you get the textbook that was sent to you?
I didn't get a textbook yet. I didn't, because I wasn't sure where I was going to be. I didn't put this in. I didn't sign up until late. So what page are we on?
It's
I
on
see it now.
page 8. On page 8, but there should be one sent to your house. It should arrive soon.
Okay, super. Thank you.
Yes. So in text number 2, Marjorie, can you read for us text number 2? It's from the Talmud.
Okay, Rabbi Yochanan taught in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, just as there can never be wheat without chaff mixed in, so too there can never be a dream without nonsense mixed in. Rabbi Berachia taught, even though part of a dream may be fulfilled, the entirety of a dream is never fulfilled. The source for these statements is found in the story of Joseph's dreams. Joseph dreamed that the sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing down to me, referring to his parents and 11 siblings. Yet at the time of the dream, Joseph's mother was already deceased.
Interesting. Thank you, Marjorie. So the Talmud tells us a little clue into how dreams work, that every dream has a little bit of nonsense. And the proof is from Joseph's dreams. So, and again, just to clarify what the Talmud means, is that Joseph dreamt the sun and the moon were bowing to him, the sun as his father, the moon as his mother, but his mother was already passed. So it couldn't be explained literally that his mother will eventually bow to him, because that will never happen. So, all in all, from the Bible, we learn a couple lessons. First of all, we learn, and this is the main one, that even if dreams have, first of all, we see from the Bible that dreams have meaning, right? The Bible seems to give a lot of credit to Pharaoh's dream and Joseph's dreams. It was actually a communication of the future. However, at the same time, the Bible makes it clear that just because a dream has meaning doesn't equal that you know the meaning. You need to have someone that could interpret and properly explain the meaning. Second of all, another important point that we see, but I want to point out, by the way, before we continue, that when I said that the Bible says that some dreams are meaningful, some dreams are meaningful. You know, when the Bible was written, or when the story of the Bible took place, there were millions of people living on planet Earth, having millions of dreams, but the Bible only recounts some of them. That doesn't mean that every single dream a person has is meaningful. Some dreams are meaningful. The Bible's not a proof that all dreams are meaningful, only that some dreams are meaningful. But we also learn from the Bible that dreams interpretations are not simple. And finally, we see from here that dreams are never entirely accurate. So these are the lessons from the Bible. Okay, now let's move on to see maybe some insight into dreams from the Talmud. All right, so any questions before we continue?
No.
All right, so the Talmud, what does the Talmud say? So text number 3, a short text, I'll read it for us. Text number 3 on page 10. A dream is 1/60th of prophecy. Statement from the Talmud. Fascinating statement. That dreams have a little bit of prophecy. When the Talmud says 1/60th, it doesn't mean that the actual ratio. It's just a figurative term that the Talmud uses when it wants to say that it's a little bit. It doesn't mean that every dream, if you divide it into 60 parts, one part is prophecy. It just means that there's a certain element of prophecy found in dreams. Now, that means prophecy may be a clear communication, and dreams are not so clear. They're more indirect. But the message we're getting from this passage of the Talmud is that dreams are serious business. That's the message we're getting from this passage in the Talmud. Okay. Now, if you look in your student books on page 11, the Talmud actually gives a list of many different symbolisms found in dreams. We're not going to go through the list, but the Talmud goes through different activities and different animals and different plants, and the Talmud describes what each one would mean if you see it in a dream. Fascinating things. You know, if you see a donkey in a dream, you'll experience personal salvation. See a goat, it's a blessed year. We're not going to go through this whole list, but the Talmud definitely gives a lot of importance to dreams. Welcome, Stephen, by the way. We're in the middle of talking about dreams in the Jewish perspective. All right. So that is the Talmud's perspective. And in text number 4, we're going to see actually how seriously the Talmud understands dreams. So, Tina, if it's possible for you,
Sure.
could you read for us text number 4?
Yeah. Rav Yehosha, the son of Rav Edi, visited the home of Rav Ashi. His host prepared a third-born calf and offered it to him to eat. Rav Ashi responded, "I am observing a fast." They countered, "Do you not agree with the ruling of Rav Yehuda that a person may break a self-imposed fast and repay his obligation by fasting on a different day?" Rav Ashi replied, "This is a fast due to a bad dream." Rav Bar Mechashia taught in the name of Rav Hama Bar Gura, who taught in the name of Rav, that a fast nullifies the portents of a bad dream, like fire consumes flask. And Rav Kista stipulated that the fast is most effective when observed on a day of a dream. Rav Yosef added that such a fast may even be observed on Shabbat. Whoa.
Wow. Thank you, Tina. So here's a passage from the Talmud, which gives tremendous importance to dreams. It says a story about a person who had a bad dream, and he was so disturbed by the dream that he fasted the day afterwards, even though it was a Sabbath. Why? Because there's a Jewish teaching that when someone has a bad dream and he fasts the next day, it burns away the negative implications of the dream like fire burns flax. Wow. So the message from this passage of the Talmud is that not only dreams are serious, that they can be a bad omen, a sign of bad news, and it could only be, and it's serious enough to warrant such a measure as fasting on the Sabbath. This teaches us, by the way, another very important point, and that is that a dream, in the Talmud is obviously saying that dreams are not destiny and faith. Because if it's fated to happen, then why fast? We see from here that something that when a dream, even if the Talmud considers dreams serious business, it's also something that can be rectified. And in text number 5, you have, there's actually a whole book written in the 14th century by a rabbi about interpreting dreams. And in text number 5, he gives us a very important lesson about the relationship between dreams and repentance. Bridget, I don't know if you're able to read. I'm assuming you're driving still, right? But either way, we'll go back to Marjorie. Marjorie, can you read for us text number 5?
Sorry, I was muted, and no, I can't read right now.
Yeah,
I can't read right now. Okay.
No problem.
Dream response. A person who has a bad dream should not say, the decree has already been sealed and all hope is lost. The possibility of rectification through repentance and supplication is always available, even for the worst dream imaginable. This person should fast, repent, and pray for mercy. If one does so, God will accept the fast, repentance, and prayer, and he will cancel all negative decrees that were issued. The negative events portended by the dream will be revoked swiftly, like fire consumes flax. They will be revoked completely, just as fire consumes flax completely, without leaving any remnant, unlike wood, which always leaves some remnant after being burned.
Thank you, Marjorie. So, Rabbi Shlomo is telling us that obviously the point of fasting isn't just to lose weight. Fasting is a means of repentance, of looking into yourself. And when someone was shown a bad omen, they would repent and they would hope that God would take away the bad dream. So far, all the texts we've been reading seems to imply that dreams are very, very serious. Now, of course, it's not that simple. For now, we're going to see the opposite side of the coin. Text number 6. The same Talmud tells us a very different story. Tina, could you read for us text number 6?
Manipulating dreams. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani taught in the same of Rabbi Yonatan. People are only shown in their dreams the products of their own thoughts. Roman emperor once said to Rabbi Yehoshua, son Rabbi Kanana, you Jews claim to be very wise. Tell me then, what will I see in my dream tonight? Rabbi Yehoshua replied, you will see the Persians capture and enslave you and force you to herd pigs with a golden staff. The emperor thought about this vision all day, and at night he saw it in his dream. King Shapur once said to Shmuel, you Jews claim to be very wise. Tell me then, what will I see in my dream tonight? Shmuel replied, you will see the Romans take you captive, force you to grind date pits with a golden mill. The king thought about this vision all day, and at night he saw it in his dream.
What a clever Talmudic tale. Thank you, Tina.
Sure.
So here the Talmud is telling us, maybe something that we were all thinking all along, that the dreams we have are just a mumbo jumbo of the thoughts we had during the day, right? I think we could all identify with this, that many of the things we dream about at night is connected with what happened during the day, right? They say a famous story about a rabbi who woke up in the middle of the night and wakes up his wife and says, I just had such a scary dream. And his wife says, well, Rabbi, what was the dream? The rabbi says, I dreamt that God died. Wow. So his wife says, don't worry, you're a rabbi. You probably thought about God during the day. And at night, you just had a dramatized version of what you thought about. The rabbi said, but no, you don't understand. I haven't thought about God in 20 years. It's a joke. But the point of the story is that dreams are products of our imagination, and so much so they can even manipulate someone's dreams. These rabbis told these emperors and kings crazy stories, things that were really disturbing to them, right? The Persians were the enemies of Rome, and Rome were the enemies of the Persians. So to the Roman emperor, they said the Persians will capture you, and there'll be golden prison, some fantastic vision which got stuck in their head the whole day, and therefore they dreamt about it by night. So the Talmud is now telling us the opposite message. The dreams don't mean anything. They're just figments of our imagination. And so much so, text number 7 is a fascinating story which really drives this point home. So I'm going to explain text number 7. There's a law as follows there's a law called Meiser Sheni. And without getting into all the details, what it means is that in the times when the temple stood in Jerusalem, every farmer was obligated to separate 10% of his produce and only bring that produce up to Jerusalem and consume it within the walls of Jerusalem. That was considered a thanks to God for having a productive year. And it's not very practical if you live somewhere far to bring, a whole wagon load of apples to Jerusalem, and you also can't eat that many apples. So what most people would do is they would sell the produce. The money would be consecrated as with the holiness of the produce, and then they would bring the money up to Jerusalem, and then they would buy with the money products in Jerusalem, and it would support the economy of Jerusalem, and that was the law. Now, the main point is that it was special money that couldn't be spent for your regular needs. That money would be set aside for only eating Jerusalem. Yeah, so far makes sense?
Yeah.
All right. So the story told in text 7 is as follows. A person was troubled about the whereabouts of money that his deceased father left for him. He dreamed that his father told him exactly how much money it was and where it could be found, but that was consecrated as Meiser Sheni. He went to the specified place and indeed found a specified sum of money. The sages instructed this person that the contents of dreams are irrelevant, and he need not treat the money as Meiser Sheni. So again, the story was that his father left him, let's say it was $100,000, but his father hid it. He didn't know where it was. And that night he had a dream that his father came to him and told him exactly where the money was, exactly how much it was, but he added a caveat. He said, son, that money can't be spent for your personal needs. That money is holy. It could only be spent in Jerusalem. Wow. He woke up in the morning. He went to the place described. And he actually found the money. What a prophetic dream, right? This is absolute prophecy. Definitely a communication from his father. He went to the rabbis, and the rabbi said, there's no need for you to treat that money as holy money. You can't spend it on your personal needs. Why? Because dreams are irrelevant. So if you found the money, but we're not going to attribute it to the dream. The dream does not have a power to make a decision on how you should spend your money. Interesting, right? So the same Talmud gives us a message about the importance of dreams, and also gives us a message how dreams are irrelevant. And for the rest of today's lesson, we're going to try to reconcile and explain how these two fit together. And I think we all already have this idea in our heads that even if dreams have meaning, that does not mean all dreams are meaningful. And we need to find out what's the criteria, how to define a dream that's meaningful and a dream that's not. Does anyone have any suggestions before we continue? How to reconcile these two texts?
Well, it's a bit confusing because it seems to me like in the dream where just now, where the man was told by his father where the money was, and it was there. He didn't know it prior this dream, I'm assuming. And also that it was supposed to be given, to Jerusalem, to Israel. I think to me, that seems really poignant. And how, I mean, somehow that didn't seem irrelevant to me. So that one I'm curious about. Because we all have frivolous dreams. We all have dreams sometimes where people continue to reoccur in our dream in different fashions or whatever. And maybe it's just because of our relationships with them or whatever. And we know to decipher it differently, or maybe not. So yeah, I'm at a quagmire on this, but because I think there's some fantastic dreams we just ignore and we're just happy we dreamed them and woke up well. And other times like that one, I would have a hard time believing that it would mean something different.
And yet the rabbis, same rabbis who was fast on the Sabbath, told them not to. So we obviously there's a deeper meaning here. There's some information we don't know, which we have to find out. And that's going to be the goal of the rest of today's lesson.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. So now to answer this, we have to take a little peek behind the curtain, what Judaism says, what happens when we go to sleep at night. What happens when we go to sleep at night? So we know that the human in Judaism, there's a body and a soul. And sleep is a time for the body to recharge. It's a time for the emotions to recharge. They say that the reason why God made that we should sleep is that if we get into a fight with our spouse, we can wake up the next morning like nothing happened. Otherwise, if we never went to sleep, there would be no cutoff points. So sleep is very important as a time for our bodies to recharge. But Judaism tells us, and especially the Kabbalah tells us, that it's also a time for the soul to recharge. Mm-hmm. And text number 9, we're not going to read it inside, but text number 9 gives a description from the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe about what happens, that during our sleep, the souls go to heaven, and in heaven, the soul recharges from its experience during the day. And if the soul was in a good place during the day, and it was spiritual, then it's in heaven, the soul receives more spiritual power. So the soul is ascending to heaven during sleep. Now, when the soul is in heaven, it encounters different forces. And that brings us to text number 8. The text number 8 asks the same question we asked, but it asks it on a biblical level. It's let's read it together. Text number 8, it's on page 20. Rava raised a contradiction between two verses. On one verse, God says, I speak with the prophet in a dream. That's a verse in Numbers. But a second verse states, dreams speak falsely in Zechariah. So which one is correct? The Talmud resolved this. There are two types of dreams. One through angels, and some by means of a demon. Wow. So the message of the Talmud is that when the soul is going to heaven, it encounters different forces. If it encounters an angel, it's going to have a good, positive, meaningful, real dream. If it encounters a demon, it will have a false, imaginative, fantastic dream. Now, one of the lessons in this course will discuss what are angels or what are demons, but that's not the subject of today's lesson. So we're just going to give a very brief overview. Angels are positive spiritual forces, and they occupy the heavenly realm, our souls visit while we sleep. And they're a means of communicating divine information. Demons mean impure spiritual beings, but in the context of dreams, we don't literally mean demons. Although there is place for a belief in demons in Judaism, but in the context of dreams, most commentators understand the Talmud to be meaning a metaphor for a possessed mind, for products of the mind. So in text number 11, we'll read it together. False dreams are the products of an unhealthy, possessed imagination. The sages borrow the term dreams to describe this negative, destructive spirit that afflicts a person. Dreams from this source are meaningless, and one shouldn't be concerned about them at all. So that's the answer to our conundrum in the Talmud. Sometimes dreams come from angels, and they have a heavenly, meaningful, spiritual message. Other times, dreams are just imaginative forces that are running amok in our brains. Now, how does this resolve? Right? So this resolves the verses. If the dream is coming from our imagination, dreams speak falsely. If they come from angels, dreams are miniature prophecies. However, some information is false, by the way, right? Because the Talmud says that every single dream, even Joseph's dreams, had a little bit of false information. So dreams are not prophecies. They're miniature prophecies, and there's always going to be some false messages hidden within the dream. So now the question is, how do you know? How do you know where your dream is from? Is it from, how can we identify the source of a dream and assess how seriously it could be taken, right? Now, there's different types of dreams. Some dreams are just visions, right? Like, actually, this is a perfect example of the dream Tina described earlier, the picture on the screen. It's a vision. You see something. There's no practical relevance within the dream. And sometimes dreams have practical relevance, like the dream of that treasure map, where he was told where money is, and he actually found the money. So sometimes dreams are practical. What do? We know that dreams could come from angels or from the imagination. What do we do? So the way to navigate it is, and now we're going to get very technical. And again, we're going to quote, we're not going to read text number 12. We're not going to read it inside, but we're just going to take out the message. And the message goes as follows. Any dream which is asking you to take an action. For example, the dream, we had two dreams that cause action so far that we discussed. The dream of Ashi, who had a bad dream and therefore decided to fast. And the dream of the person who had a dream about the money, and the sages told him the money is not holy. If you look closely at these two stories, you'll see that the sages' approach is that it's a doubt. We don't know if the dream is real or not, because we don't know. It could be from imagination, it could be from angels. There's not really a way to know. So, therefore, we treat it as if we treat any doubt. So, if you had a bad dream and you feel like you want to repent and fast, that's your business. You could fast if you want to. So go ahead, fast. But if the dream is telling you that your money is not your money, then the law is, by any doubt, by monetary items, the money possession is 10%, is 9/10 of the law, right? We learned about this in the last course. If you have possession, nobody can take it away from you without substantial proof. A dream is not a good enough proof for anyone to take away money from you. It's a doubt. So in the case of the money, the rabbi said, it's your money, you found it, but we can't tell you that you have to treat the money as holy money. If you want to, that's your choice, but the rabbis cannot instruct it as a legal ruling because it's a doubt. And just to dramatize the case, if someone else found that money before the person who had the dream did, the rabbis wouldn't say, give the money to the person who had the dream, because you had a dream, good for you, but that does not obligate anybody to give you money. So that's our resolution so far, that there are two different types of dreams. Dreams from angels, in other words, divine, spiritual dreams. Dreams that come from a spiritual source, or dreams that come from demons, from our imagination. we don't yet know a way to determine where the dreams come from. And therefore, if it's a simple vision, then there's nothing practically to do anyway. If it's a practically relevant dream, then it's treated as a doubt. And therefore, you can't take away any money. But what you could do is fast if you'd like to, because you're feeling upset, you're feeling disturbed, you want to fast, go ahead. So here we have a chart just to make it all clear. Dreams could be from imagination or from angels. Therefore, the dreamer is in doubt, and therefore, on the option that it's imagination, money stays with the possessor. On the option that it's real, permission is granted to fast on the Sabbath. Okay, before we continue, does anyone have any questions?
Would the person fast even if it's not Shabbat?
Even if it's not Sabbath, he would fast. The novel idea is that even though it's a Sabbath where we're supposed to feast and have meals and celebrate, he is granted permission to fast.
Okay.
Now, some of you may be thinking now, that means I should start fasting whenever I have a bad dream? And I'm giving away the answer. The answer is no. And the reason is, we're going to explain now that there's another way of determining the criteria of what is a meaningful dream. And that is determining the nature of the dreamer. Let's read text number 13.
Can I read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
I heard explicitly from my grandfather and teacher of blessed memory that
I'll
one should
interrupt you
not.
for a second. This is Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Lubavitch, the third Lubavitcher Rebbe. He's talking in this text. Sorry, Marjorie, continue.
That's okay. That one should not be worried at all about such matters like dreams. The teachings in the Talmud that lend great significance to dreams only apply to people of great spiritual stature whose thoughts are distant from these matters. If this person has an uncharacteristic experience, it must be divinely orchestrated, and it is therefore cause for concern. However, a person whose thoughts regularly wander to such matters has no reason for concern. My grandfather repeated this many times and would dismiss people that were miserable as a result. You should completely ignore this and be joyful.
So this was a letter written by the third Lubavitcher Rebbe to someone who had a disturbing dream. And he told him a very interesting point, which gives us more clarity on how to view dreams. And that is that based on the idea that dreams do come from the imagination or from our thoughts during the day, we have to ask ourselves, are my daytime minds and thoughts focused on productive and spiritual matters? Or are they not? I think most of us can agree that it's difficult to have control over our thoughts in today's day and age. Our thoughts aren't necessarily focused. Our mind wanders, right? You know what they say. I want to explain what ADD is. So ADD is, oh, look, a squirrel. Right? That's a famous meme about ADD. That, and everyone today has a little bit of ADD. We're not focused and necessarily the whole day on productive and spiritual matters. Such a person can't really give relevance to his or her dreams. Why? Because no matter what they see, it's very possible they thought about it during the day. However, a person who has spiritual and productive thoughts the whole entire day, he was learning Torah the whole day, he was engaged in meditation, he was praying like a great rabbi, and the Talmudic sages, they're only thinking about Torah the whole day. So if they had some fantastic dream in the middle of the night, it had nothing to do with what they thought about during the day. then they could start deciding, does it come from demons or from angels? But a person whose mind is always wandering and it's all over the place, our dream, I could talk about myself. My dreams are not necessarily meaningful. So even for here, we're gonna make it all clear in a chart. Dreams could come from imagination or from angels, and the likely scenario for wandering minds is that dreams speak falsehood, and therefore, if we will not be able to fast on the Sabbath, because even if we had a disturbing dream, we want to fast, maybe during the week, if you feel healthy enough, you're allowed to fast. But on the Sabbath, we're usually not allowed to fast. We will not be granted permission to fast. Why? Because the law would say we don't have to worry about that dream. We have wandering minds, so we have all types of fantastic dreams. We can't decide if our dream had meaning or not. But dreams are miniature prophecies. The likely scenario for focused spiritual people, they would be granted permission to fast on the Sabbath. However, in both cases, even by spiritual people, they're, at the end of the day, dreams are dreams, and there's an element of doubt always included in dreams. And therefore, in all cases, dreams cannot change ownership of money and as such. It's always treated as doubt. So again, for a wandering mind where we have where my mind is not necessarily focused on spiritual pursuits, we can't give credit to our dreams. I'm sure a lot of you have issue with this, and we're going to get to that in a moment. But we can't give credit to our dreams to take extreme action. Because our minds are wandering, we can't give credit to take an action like fasting on the Sabbath or anything which is necessarily disruptive. Only someone who has a more spiritually attuned radar, a person who's focused and who cannot say that his dreams came from his thoughts, he has permission granted to take action, but only in a case where he's not disturbing anyone else's life. Because at the end of the day, it's a doubt. Especially today, where we have TV and movies and social media, our minds are always looking at these crazy scenarios. It's no wonder why we have these crazy dreams. So this is another way of criteria to look about dreams. Now, anyone have any questions before we continue? So I'll continue. So now, maybe some of you are thinking, but I do have bad dreams, and it does disturb me. And I do want to feel like I do want to do something about it. Maybe I did. Maybe it was a meaningful dream. So that's why I qualified my statement, and I said, we don't take any disruptive and extreme measures, but you could pray. In fact, there's a special prayer, which is in text number 14, which is on every holiday when in the synagogue, when the priests bless the congregation. If you ever been to a synagogue during the holidays where everyone puts their talit over their head and the priests go in the front and they perform a blessing, the Kohen, so there's a special prayer printed in many prayer books. We use that time to pray that our dreams should have good and positive outcomes. And that's in text number 14. And someone could say this prayer any day if you'd like to. You could say it any day during prayer. So we do have measures. If someone feels that they want to take action because of a certain dream, they could pray. But they can't fast. So again, the questions we ask ourselves are, Am I serious during the day? Am I focused? Are my thoughts under my control? And then we could give credit to our dreams. But if the balance of probabilities is that our minds are wandering, we shouldn't give credit to our dreams. And having said that, I'm going to move on to the last section of today's course. So I'm glad that everyone took this well. Okay, so finally, we're going to go to practically, am I saying that we should never give credits to dreams? The truth is that it really depends. There's two types of dreams a person could have. You can have a dream that's inspirational and a dream that's disturbing. Now, the Rebbe always had an approach that if something is inspirational, we never disregard it because nothing bad will come out of inspiration. Only good. So if you have a dream that is telling you to be a better person, to be kinder, to be more spiritual, to be more connected, you should definitely give credit to that dream because it may be a real dream, and why not? You should absolutely give credit to that dream. There's a chance that that's a real divine communication because it's inspiring you. And inspiration can only come from a good source. So we have an example in text number 15. It's a letter from the Rebbe to an individual, which he wrote to the Rebbe as follows. The background is that he was having several disturbing dreams. And he even went to dream interpreters to find meaning in them. And he was asking the Rebbe, how do I know what dreams are real, what dreams aren't? And he shared with the Rebbe one dream he had, very disturbing dream. The dream was that he was angry about the injustice in the world, and therefore, in his dream, he decided that considering the state of affairs the world is in, he needs to ascend from this world. You might take that to mean as something terrible. Ascend from this world, could only mean terrible things. So here's how the Rebbe guided him and made a complete 180 on his perspective. So Tina, could you read for us text number 15?
Yeah, let's see. Inspiring interpretation. Hang on a second. Lexi, come here. As a general rule, there is no need for instruction to be communicated through dreams. For instruction, God gave each and every one of us the Torah of truth and life, which illuminates a Jew's path in life. When one isn't observing God's instructions given in the Torah, one may sometimes receive a hint regarding this in a dream or the like. It is certain that the message of your dream is not about injustices in the world in the literal sense, for such issues are completely beyond your ability to rectify. Rather, the straightforward meaning of your dream is clear. You are being shown that you need to be angry about the fact that your world, your personal life, that you exercise full control over is being conducted unjustly, contrary to divine justice. You must ascend from this mode of conduct through actual day-to-day behavior in accordance with God's instructions as stated in the Code of Jewish Law.
Wow. Thank you, Tina. So the Rebbe told this person, the Rebbe wrote thousands and thousands of letters, many different individuals who asked him different questions. And this was one of them. And in the classic Rebbe's approach, he turned it from something negative to something positive. He told this person, instead of viewing this as a dream that you need to ascend in the negative sense, this dream is telling you to become a better person. Ascend in the positive sense. Transcend the injustice of your world and become a source of positivity. So dreams that hamper are, of course, to be disregarded. And dreams that inspire, an inspirational dream, of course, that's a dream that you could internalize. And I'll share another story about the Rebbe. A friend of mine, who's actually the rabbi of Chabad in Dunwoody, had a grandfather. His name was Rabbi Weinberg. And he wrote many books, and he worked for different organizations. And he wrote to the Rebbe as follows, that he had a dream that he was instructed that he should start doing a little bit of, let's say it was charity. He should start giving a little charity. And he asked the Rebbe, what does this dream mean? So the Rebbe told him, it wasn't charity, it was something else, but I'm just symbolizing the story. So the Rebbe told him, well, the Talmud says that every dream has a little bit of falsehood, right? That's the story of Joseph. So the falsehood in this dream is that you shouldn't give a little bit of charity, you should give a lot of charity. So the Rebbe was telling him that if a dream is inspiring you to give, absolutely you should be giving and using the inspiration to go further. So to summarize, we learned two practical approaches towards dreams. Either sometimes we disregard them, sometimes we internalize them, and it's in doubt, the money saves the possessor. And I guess one last aspect of dreams is sometimes we have nightmares. Nobody appreciates nightmares. Is there any Jewish perspective on reducing nightmares? So text number 16 is the Rebbe's advice about nightmares. Bridget, are you available to read now?
I am. I'm here.
Okay, great. We definitely want to include you in the reading. Marjorie and Tina were losing their voices.
Regarding disturbing dreams, it is well known, and the sages teach about this. See in the dreams the products of their own thoughts. Dreams are the result of idle daytime thoughts, and when the cause reduced, be minimized. To be particular about reciting the bedtime Shema and ensure that the mezuzah of your bedroom is
kosher. All right, thank you, Bridget. So, what the Rebbe was telling us here, first of all, in order to reduce nightmares, is have greater control over your thoughts. If you're reading scary books or watching scary stuff, of course you're going to have nightmares. Everybody knows that. That's just practical advice. But also, in a spiritual sense, there's the idea of reciting the bedtime Shema, a prayer before we go to sleep, which focuses us before we go to sleep that our souls, we thank God for giving us a good day. And finally, ensuring that the bedroom has a kosher mezuzah is another spiritual way of reducing nightmares, because Judaism always sees that the spiritual and physical are connected. Something's going wrong in our physical lives and may be coming from something wrong in our spiritual life. And the main takeaway, I would say, of today's class is that anything that hampers us and disturbs us, especially in today's days and age, can be disregarded. We live in a time where we're not on a spiritual level to be receiving disturbing messages from heaven. The only thing we could receive in our generation is love and positive and inspirational messages. If we do receive a disturbing message, we could take appropriate action to try to improve in our lives, but it should never be an extreme, drastic measure. And with that, we'll watch a short summary video of what we learned today. And here we go.
Lesson 1. Dreams and Direction. 1. The degree of meaning our dreams have correlates with the degree of focus and meaning our daytime thoughts have. People who think with more intentionality have more meaningful dreams. And people whose minds roam without focus experience meaningless dreams. 2. Even if a dream has meaning, not all of its details are accurate or meaningful. Dream interpretation is far from an exact science and can never be considered certain. 3. As a rule, dreams that cause worry and anxiety should be disregarded as meaningless. When dreams do have meaning, their goal is to inspire us to act and improve ourselves. 4. There is no destiny that cannot be changed. Even if we're convinced that a particular dream forebodes negative events, we should know that prayer and mitzvot can change any destiny. 5. Nightmares can be reduced through improving the quality of our daytime thoughts. Firm faith in God and a Jewish bedtime ritual are particularly effective in setting the stage for a peaceful and refreshing sleep experience.
All right. Does anyone have any questions before we conclude? I love it. Thank you for not challenging me. I appreciate that.
Okay, I'll challenge you. I don't remember most of my dreams.
That's
It
great.
didn't really discuss that. Well, it's not, I don't know, is it?
I take that to mean we didn't discuss that, not remembering dreams. I take that to mean that you had a good restful sleep and you're not too focused on your imagination, so you don't remember it, you know. It was just,
Okay.
you know, if we don't, ideally, if we don't remember our dreams, that's the best. I always consider it the best sleep is when you just wake up and you don't remember anything. Just good.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not discussed because
Yes.
really, don't remember, you don't remember. There's nothing to discuss.
So I guess the question I have, and it might require like a complete class, but in the discussion, as our souls, when we go to sleep and our souls separate, is that, I mean, we pray Shema, we pray our bedtime prayer to cover us, to protect us, to wake up well, to see, you know, to be revealed the light again, and thank God in the mornings, you know, for restoring our soul to us. So if we're having a bad dream, is our soul being affected by that bad dream? Maybe according to this, no, or and maybe according to this, yes, because it's what we fed our mind the day before.
Great question. So yeah, I think you're already answering the question that, you know, we don't consider ourselves on a spiritual level high. If someone was completely focused and spiritual and they only had positive thoughts during the day, then if they had a negative dream during the night, then they may consider that a disturbing sign. But for most of us, dreams are only a reflection of ourselves. It's just a mirror by what we thought about during the day. So if it's disturbing, I wouldn't say it got disturbed more by the dream. It's just a result of our thoughts during the day. And if we don't appreciate our dreams, it may be a sign that we should be using our thoughts in a more productive way. Obviously, this is not a blanket rule. It's very nuanced and subjective. You know, today with medications, you know, I've had different medications that just give you nightmares. It's just what they do. There's nothing really you could do about it. And that just may be a physical reaction. Again, it's not a sign of anything negative. But that would be my overall answer. All right. Okay.
As a therapist, I learned a way to interpret dreams, which can be helpful sometimes, especially if they're upsetting, or if they're positive too, actually, is that you verbalize the dream as the theory is that everything is in your dream is something you're projecting of yourself. In my training, somebody had a dream about a cowboy with a shiny gun. And when they went through the dream and they were the gun, they realized it was a clergy person, and that person realized that he had the power and people were afraid of him and intimidated by him. So that we are projecting an aspect of ourselves onto everything in the dream. And if we go through the dream as though we're even the people in the dream are really us, and we're projecting something of ourselves, whether even if it's somebody we don't like, what are we projecting? What are we seeing in that person that really has to do with us? And that kind of interpretation can really be very freeing. And most upsetting dreams, when I would go through that kind of stuff with clients, it was like, oh, okay, I understand, and that feels good.
Right. And that's very much in line with what we discussed today, that most dreams are the products of our thoughts. And
right, exactly.
We could use that to get insight into what's going on inside us in a more dramatized form. And again, the rule being that if it's inspiring you and making you a better person, as they say in Yiddish, Gesundheit, enjoy. If it's hampering you and disturbing you, then the best advice is to disregard it. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. Next week, the class will be about astrology, stars, signs, horoscopes. It's a big thing today. And we want to know, what is a Jewish perspective on astrology? And with that, I leave you. I'll be here next week, same time, same place, Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.